All right, welcome back to The Horror with Mike
and Nate.
On this episode, we're going to be doing a review of the new Haunted House movie, We Are Still Here. Nate, you want to take it away?
Yeah, We Are Still Here is freshly released to video on demand. You can get it through iTunes Movies. As you said, it's a haunted house movie, and I gotta be honest with you, before I start talking about the plot, the first few minutes, I was sort of like, another haunted house movie? It just seems like there've been a lot of haunted house movies.
Not only that, but a haunted house movie that was a throwback to the 70s.
Right, so, as the movie starts to unfold, I'm not that psyched, although...
It looked great. I mean,
it did.
I love that.
There were definitely echoes of Fargo there. It looked good. Mm-hmm. But it's following the haunted house playbook. Okay, we've got an adult couple who are still mourning the loss of their adult son. In trying to put the past behind them and move on, they buy a house out in the countryside near this weird little town. And immediately you start getting all the traditional haunted house stuff, unexplained shadows, noises, doors closing, things moving around. And it's following the playbook. Everything's standard. Mm-hmm. Until it isn't. We get to a point about halfway through it where as soon as it establishes, okay, this is a normal haunted house movie, it veers off and sort of jumps off the rails and goes in a direction that I wasn't anticipating. I won't say what that is, but let's just say it cranks it up a notch, and after it had lulled me into thinking, okay, I know what to expect, then it hit me with something I didn't expect, which I loved. At that point, I was fully into the movie.
Right. I was really excited about this movie. And this was the weekend of Insidious 3, and I could not care. Like, I still haven't seen Insidious 3. I was all about, here comes, We Are Still Here. And so it finally comes out, and I emailed you. I was like, all right, now you can get it. And you're like, what the fuck is it? I'm like, I didn't tell you? Like, look it up. And I was putting it off. And I was like, I'm going to wait until, midnight when I'm ready to go to sleep. And then I'm going to be all alone. I'll be able to watch it. And so I hyped this movie up to myself. And you sent me an email halfway through the day. You're like, dude, don't procrastinate. I'm like, I'm not. I'm getting ready.
Yeah, you gotta watch this movie.
It's a religious experience, man. You don't know. It's very aggravating watching movies with me. So yeah, I finally get around to watching it. And I was so digging that 70s style. Like I said that earlier, that was not like a complaint, but I can see what you mean. Because it was haunted house, 70s style. It was all great, but, we've seen these kind of things before. And then, yeah, exactly halfway, because again, I watch movies with the counters on. Halfway through, I think they had already established the ghost designs. I'm not going to say what they are, but if you see the preview, you know what they are, and they're really fucking cool.
Yeah, really scary stuff.
And so halfway through, it takes the turn that 98% of haunted house movies don't. And then you're like, oh, okay. So now that upped the stakes substantially. And then the third act, you have to see the third act to believe it. You won't see it coming, and it's not a cheat. It's not like, oh, everybody was dead the whole time or something. It just
it's
plot
there are no real plot twists in it. No. Just the plot as it going keeps expanding and unfolding in these ways that you didn't necessarily anticipate.
But all still stays. I mean, other than 2 trips out of the house, which everyone does, it all stays in the house. A haunted house movie. It doesn't expand, bring the world into.
Right.
It's just, how can you do that? And that's what's really interesting and how you won't get it. You're sitting there thinking right now, how do you make a haunted house movie bigger and bigger? It's like, how does that work? It works a lot better than you would expect, in a way you wouldn't expect, and goes fucking ape shit. Because it keeps its tone specifically very slow, and then something
like I said,
happens.
it sort of lulls you.
Yeah.
And then it comes out of nowhere. So, We Are Still Here was written and directed by a guy named Ted Gohagan.
Yes.
And this is his directorial debut. And he's written some movies before, but he hasn't directed. And he knocked it out of the park, writing and directing. And then I also, we mentioned her earlier, but there's also the important aspect of acting. And Barbara Crampton, I thought, was great.
Yeah, she's just such a sweetheart. God,
back in the 80s... She was a scream queen for Charles Band. She was in From Beyond, Reanimator,
Right.
Castle Freak.
Yes.
A few years ago, she sort of had a resurgence. She was in Lords of Salem and You're Next.
Yeah, like one shot of Lords of Salem, but she's in there. Just don't blink.
And she does. The movie sort of falls on her to carry it. It's more of a plot movie than a character movie. I'm not saying that, but if you don't buy her, the movie is a lot harder to buy.
Right.
And I thought she was great in the lead.
Yeah, she's just such a sweetheart, and that was something that I realized that she even has in Reanimator and all those old school movies, is she was always naked and always screaming. She was that, but she's not, like, and nothing against Linnea Quigley, but, like, you think back to those movies, and Reanimator, like, she's actually a really, like, sweet character in that movie, and that's what makes it so horrible what happens to her. And so she just has that sweetness still, and she's still very attractive. Like, I don't want to name names, but possibly there's somebody else in this movie or another grown actress that I've seen recently who did not hold up well to time.
Not at all.
And Barbara Crampton it was a great performance. She really feels like a sweet.
I mean, I like a lot of her movies. This is probably the best performance I've seen her give.
You might just be right.
You know?
Yeah,
because it's not a scream queen performance.
Yeah.
It's a great acting job.
Yeah, and the other thing is Larry Fessenden shows up in everything nowadays. Like it's because I like and respect Larry Fessenden. I'm sure that I called him out on Late Phases because he's a very important person. If we did a list of important people and behind the scenes in horror, he would be up there because his Glass Eye picks. He took Adam Wingard and the You're Next guys. Adam Wingard, he took Ty West under. He's grabbing all of like these really good guys, and he was the one helping put Ty West and all these people out here in this movie. And so he's in a lot of stuff. He was, like I said, in Late Phases. He was a bigger role in this than he's been in all the other horror movies. And I thought he knocked it out of the park too. I was like, wow, he's really good.
He was,
like
yeah.
He comes in and adds just so much like charm that it's annoying at first. It's like, all right, don't overact now. Everybody's being really subdued, but you realize the movie needed that. And I think his performance bridges part 1 from part 2 of this movie because he starts to ramp up the quirkiness and the energy that then he freaks some shit out later, and very, very good performance by him.
Yeah, when the character turns, it was for me one of the most chilling parts of the movie.
Yeah, that shit was freak. And how that scene ends is where I was like, "Uh-oh, we're in trouble now."
Yes,
like I was like, "Uh-oh, this movie stopped playing. Like we're in trouble."
Great acting, a great story,
great special effects,
well directed. This is easily. This vaults to the top of my list of my favorite horror movies that I've seen this year.
This is going to be on the top of that list.
Yeah, it's right up there with Late Phases for me. So
yeah, I hope something does beat this because it's good.
In the final analysis, yes, I just said is one of the, if not the best horror movie I've seen this year. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Upon repeat viewings, that may actually go up, but for now, an 8 out of 10, and I'll say this is a must-see.
Yeah, and I would give it a 7, just because I'm trying to be a little bit more fair about I get too hyped up, and this movie did hype me up about being really good.
See, I went into it with no hype whatsoever.
No, I meant I get hyped after I see something. You know that I kind of like, I overstate stuff, so I'm like, I'm just going to let this rest at a 7. It's a must-see 7 that definitely could go up on repeat viewing, but I really think it could because the story, I realized afterwards, because I was so blown away by the third act, that the story actually has a very emotional, very raw twist on haunted house movies. But I had to think about that. So after you watch the movie, rethink about the whole plot and what the last point makes, and then it's an even better movie. So 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, high recommend. Yes. Very, very good movie.
It's called We Are Still Here, and you can go to iTunes and get that movie right now. We both recommend that you do.
Yeah. Oh, and extra shout out to the guy who plays like the ominous villain, I guess you could say. That guy was really good.
He was. He always play. It always seems like he plays that same guy.
Was.
I don't know the actor's name.
Anyway,
he's a character actor that everybody would
special shout
recognize.
out to him. He did a very good job.
So let us know what you think about this movie and give us suggestions for other great horror movies that we need to be checking out. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Fright Flicks. And my personal social media handle is at NateFlix. We will be back very soon with more reviews, full episodes, countdowns, top 10s, and everything else. This has been The Horror.
All right, we are still here. You are welcome for that recommendation. See you later, guys.